Now I'd like to help kick off the premiere of an exciting new comedy show, which you're all going to enjoy for a long, long time, starring Tom and Dick Smothers.
A tape was sent to CBS's censors, and within minutes, alarm bells rang throughout the network's hallways. What was expected to be a typical comedy routine was instead a sharp, bold political message far beyond anything CBS had ever allowed. Just 6 days later, without warning, explanation, or a farewell, the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour was suddenly cancelled. The episode never aired, but what happened that day would change American television forever. What exactly was on that tape that scared CBS so deeply? To understand, we must go back to the beginning. In the 1960s, American television was dominated by 3 major networks: NBC, ABC, and CBS. Each night, families gathered around their sets to watch programming that strictly followed accepted social and political norms. CBS, the gold standard of safe TV, offered shows like The Ed Sullivan Show and Bonanza Star. But the country was changing. Protests against the Vietnam War and a broader questioning of authority were reshaping American culture. CBS needed to adapt to keep its younger viewers, especially to compete with NBC's Sunday night lineup. Enter the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour a show starring Tom and Dick Smothers, 2 brothers whose act blended comedy with music. Tom was the goofy, impulsive one. Dick was the straight-laced, musical foil. CBS thought they were harmless, family-friendly entertainment. The show premiered on February 5, 1967, and the first few episodes met CBS's expectations: light jokes, songs, and simple skits. But Tom Smothers had a bigger vision. He didn't just want to entertain, he wanted to challenge. Under the veil of comedy, Tom began transforming the show into a platform for social commentary. He started booking guests like Pete Seeger, Joan Baez, Jefferson Airplane, and The Who artists who openly discussed war, civil rights, and freedom. The writer's room filled with sharp young talent like Steve Martin, who tapped into the voice of a younger generation. Comedy skits evolved from silly to smart, with biting commentary on politics and society. Though the format looked the same, the show's substance shifted dramatically. Young audiences responded immediately. College students quoted lines from the show and discussed the messages behind the jokes. For many, it was the only program on television that reflected their concerns. But not everyone was pleased. Southern TV stations and conservative viewers sent furious letters, accusing the show of corrupting public morals. CBS found itself in a dilemma. Ratings were strong among young viewers, but the network was losing control of its content. Tom Smothers refused to back down. He wouldn't cut jokes or disinvite controversial guests. As the show pushed further, CBS demanded that every episode be submitted 10 days in advance for review. Tom regularly ignored this rule, delivering episodes at the last minute to prevent censorship. Behind the scenes, tensions grew between Tom and CBS executives. Dick, stuck in the middle, tried to keep the peace while Tom pushed against the network's limits. By the second season, the comedy had grown even bolder. Musical guests sang openly about drugs, war, and resistance. The Who destroyed sound equipment with their performances. Joan Baez dedicated a song to her jailed husband, imprisoned for draft refusal. Comedian Pat Paulson ran a fake presidential campaign, mocking real politicians by making absurd promises like increasing potholes to test public patience, satire that felt uncomfortably close to the truth. The show's most controversial voice was David Steinberg, who delivered mock sermons that blended religion with politics. In one sketch, he rewrote Bible stories to reflect the anti-war movement, comparing Moses to conscientious objectors. Religious viewers were outraged. In October 1968, some CBS affiliates refused to air Steinberg's sketch. The network received over 300 angry calls and letters in a single week. Meanwhile, college campuses traded bootleg tapes of Steinberg's banned sermons. For many young Americans, the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour became a lifeline, a rare TV show that represented the world they were living in. CBS, increasingly alarmed, tightened the rules. Every script, joke, and guest had to be approved. Still, Tom continued to push. By early 1969, The network had had enough. Local affiliates threatened to pull the show. Advertisers were getting nervous. When Tom invited Steinberg back for another sermon, CBS knew the line was about to be crossed. In April 1969, Tom submitted an episode featuring Steinberg performing a new sermon, this one even more direct. On a stage designed like a synagogue, Steinberg reimagined Moses as a modern anti-war activist. He said Moses wasn't just obeying God, he was defying an unjust ruler, just like young people refusing to fight in Vietnam. Then, looking directly at the camera, he declared, "Sorry, Mr. President, but take your army and go. I will not help you anymore." The audience erupted in applause. CBS executives, however, were horrified. To them, this was a direct attack on President Nixon. The sketch ended with a folk group singing "No More Promised Lands," urging viewers to reject hollow political promises and think for themselves. As Steinberg threw his prayer shawl into the crowd and shouted "Peace, not war," CBS censors shut it down. The network claimed the episode missed its submission deadline, but Tom insisted it was delivered on time. CBS demanded the sermon be cut. Tom refused. On April 4, 1969, CBS abruptly cancelled the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour star. No press release. No final episode. Just silence. The following Sunday, the show's time slot was given to Hee Haw *, a safe country variety program with no political risk. The banned episode never aired in the US, but it was shown in Canada. Bootleg copies began circulating among American college students, sparking widespread discussion. University newspapers wrote essays praising the episode as a powerful final statement. Though it had been silenced, the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour * became a symbol of free speech, resistance, and the ongoing struggle between art and authority. Young audiences were inspired. Older viewers were divided. But one thing was clear: television would never be the same again. Viewers saw the sudden cancellation of the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour * as proof that CBS cared more about protecting politics than upholding free speech. Small protests broke out at CBS offices in several cities, though many conservatives defended the network's actions as necessary to protect public morals. For Tom and Dick Smothers, however, the cancellation was devastating. Television opportunities vanished overnight. Tom was labeled too dangerous to hire, and even Dick, though more cautious, was blacklisted by association. But the brothers didn't give up. They sued CBS for breach of contract, arguing that the cancellation was a pretext to silence their political views. After a 4-year legal battle, the court ruled in their favor in 1973 and ordered CBS to pay over $770,000. Still, the damage had been done. Their television careers were essentially over. The strain of the ordeal also took a toll on their relationship. Dick later admitted that he didn't always agree with Tom's uncompromising stance, believing that if Tom had been more willing to compromise, the show could have lasted longer and reached more people. Yet despite their differences, the brothers remained close, continuing to perform in smaller venues for their loyal fanbase. The show's cancellation sent shockwaves through the television industry. Young writers and producers saw it as a harsh lesson about the limits of creative freedom under network control. Lorne Michaels, who later created Saturday Night Live *, credited the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour * with proving that political satire could survive even briefly on primetime TV. For a generation of comedians and artists, Tom and Dick Smothers became icons of artistic courage. The censored tapes of their show became underground treasures, circulated like forbidden relics. Rejected sketches resurfaced years later in personal archives, fueling the legend of a show silenced for speaking too boldly. Over time, public opinion about the show evolved. What had once seemed subversive or inappropriate came to be viewed as brave and visionary. In 2008, nearly 40 years after the cancellation, Tom Smothers received an honorary Emmy Award. In his acceptance speech, he said simply, "Peace is harder than war," a quote that resonated deeply and has since been widely repeated. In 2010, Tom and Dick were inducted into the Television Academy Hall of Fame, finally earning formal recognition for their impact on American media. The show's political legacy was further cemented when it was revealed that Tom and Dick Smothers had been placed on President Nixon's infamous enemies list during the early 1970s. While they didn't face the same consequences as journalists or politicians, their inclusion made it clear just how much their voices had rattled those in power. In 2022, the full archive of the show, including scripts, tapes, and unaired sketches, was transferred to UC Santa Barbara for preservation. For the first time, researchers gained access to internal documents, some of which CBS had once ordered destroyed. The digitization of these archives helped reshape the show's legacy for a new generation. When Tom Smothers passed away in late 2023, social media platforms lit up with tributes. Clips from the show, vintage photos, and reflections poured in from comedians like Stephen Colbert, John Oliver, and Sarah Silverman, all of whom credited him as a pioneer of modern political comedy. He was remembered not as a figure of the past, but as a foundation of a bolder, more honest kind of television. Surprisingly, the show found new life in the digital age. Once passed around in secrecy on VHS tapes, episodes began appearing on YouTube, TikTok, and Reddit. The iconic line "Mom always liked you best" became a meme. Pat Paulson's mock 1968 presidential campaign, with promises like solving all problems by waiting for them to go away, was shared millions of times in today's cynical political climate. Sketches once banned for being too sensitive were now hailed as classics of fearless satire. This resurgence wasn't just nostalgia, it was recognition. For many, it became clear that the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour had been far ahead of its time. Researchers, students, and filmmakers continue to explore the UC Santa Barbara archives, uncovering handwritten notes, censored scripts, and correspondence that reveal the extent of the censorship the show endured. Modern comedy hosts like John Oliver, Trevor Noah, and Hassan Minhaj openly acknowledge the Smothers Brothers as influences not because of their format, but because they showed that comedy could be a vehicle for truth, not just escape. Media scholars now cite the show as a critical milestone in the evolution of television, especially in discussions about free speech and creative integrity. Though it's no longer on the air, the show's spirit lives on through its memorable quotes, its unapologetic commitment to truth-telling, and the impact it had on generations of creators. At a 2023 memorial screening during the New York Television Festival, the once forbidden Steinberg sermon was shown in full to a live audience, many of them young people seeing it for the first time. Far from seeming outdated, the content felt piercing and immediate, its humor sharp, its critique still relevant. The crowd applauded not just the performance, but the courage behind it. Today, the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour is remembered not only as a great comedy show, but as a bold act of resistance, a symbol that comedy, at its best, can shake power, challenge injustice, and dare to tell the truth when silence is easier.